UFC 311 Makhachev versus Tsarukyan 2 just got announced yesterday afternoon, and I will say it is one of the better pay-per-view cards I have seen in quite a while. Gonna be happening in Los Angeles, California. Tsarukyan finally getting his chance to rematch Islam after how many years has it been? 2019, about 5 years since their original encounter. Since then, he's beaten a PFL champion. He beat Matt Frivola, who was ranked. He beat Joel Alvarez, who's going to be ranked very, very soon. He lost to Gamrot, who everybody thinks he won in that fight. He beat Damir Smagula, former top 10 lightweight. Knocked out Beneil Dariush, former top 5 lightweight. And he beat the former champion Charles Oliveira in his last fight. He's on a roll right now, but he can't beat a guy in Islam Makhachev. He's getting his chance to prove it in a second outing, this time 5 rounds, this time not on short notice, and this time in the main event. Should be a great one. At 155 pounds, of course, we do have Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Merab Dvalishvili. Both have 18 wins. One has 4 losses. One has no losses in the UFC bantamweight division. I think it got to Merab. I swear to God, I think it got to Merab. Everybody was saying, oh my God, Merab, you're ducking Umar. Merab, fight Umar, fight Umar. Merab's like, no, I won Piotr. I won O'Malley rematch. Shut up, Merab, fight Umar Nurmagomedov, and everybody won't call you a duck, and that's probably what he was thinking. He's like, yeah, Piotr Jan was a pretty easy matchup. I won that one with ease. I won the Sean O'Malley fight. It wasn't that hard as well. I should probably just shoot for a rematch of those ones, get some easy money, get some easy legacy points, more title defenses and things like that. Honestly, it was not a bad decision from Merab, as both of those fights, though, Mali and the Piotr Jan fights, would have been easier opponents, and he probably could have built his legacy, made even more money, fought Umar when he was 20-0. That would have been an even bigger fight after Umar finishes Piotr Jan, he finishes O'Malley, then he fights Merab, and then it's a huge fight in the bantamweight division. But even though that didn't happen, even though we're not getting this fight later on after Merab has built his legacy a little bit more, guess what? We've already had it in our minds for the past month or so that Merab's ducking Umar. Everybody's been saying that all across social media. Merab is ducking Umar Nurmagomedov. He doesn't want to fight him. So everybody thinking that simultaneously, and then we get the announcement that Umar and Merab are fighting. This makes me think Merab actually wanted to fight Umar from the start, but wanted to kind of build up some momentum, build up some anticipation for this fight now. Now everybody thinks the champion doesn't actually want to fight Umar Nurmagomedov at UFC 311. He's probably, everyone's thinking, oh, he's being forced to. So now, if Merab goes out there and wins the fight that everyone says and thinks that Merab is ducking the fight, he doesn't want this fight, and if Merab goes out there and gets the win in a fight where he's now the 2-1 underdog, that's going to be massive for Merab Dvalishvili to have Islam and Khabib Nurmagomedov in the arena at the same time, watching Umar Nurmagomedov fight for the title, and he goes out there and wins. That's going to be massive for his legacy, because everybody's writing him out now. Everybody, not just because of the matchup. A lot of people were saying Umar was going to win even before any of this, but the fact that Merab showed everybody his real unwillingness to make this fight happen, everybody really thinks Merab doesn't want anything to do with Umar. So that makes our thoughts about the matchup even more towards Umar's going to win, making a Merab victory even bigger for him and for his legacy. So I think this is actually a net positive, what Merab did, if he can get the win. If he loses, it's horrible. But if he can get the win and he's able to build this image in everybody's minds that he doesn't want this fight, but he took the fight anyway, he was forced to, and he took it and he wins the fight, it'll be huge. We have some other great matchups on the card. This one really isn't one of them, but it's a big name matchup in the UFC a heavyweight division. I'm going to look up UFC rankings really quick here to see where Jonathan's ranked. I think he's 6 or 7 in the UFC heavyweight division. He's 6, and then Sergey Spivak is 7. So you gotta think, like, this doesn't seem like a massive matchup. There's so many other better fights on this card that people are more looking forward to than Spivak versus Jailton Almeida. but you have to look at it kind of as, would you really care for this fight if it was in like any other weight class? We go to the bantamweight division. Marlon Vera, Henry Cejudo. That's main event level of a fight night. We got Brian Ortega, Arnold Allen. That's pretty much main event level of a UFC fight night. Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler, banger. Colby Covington, Ian Carey. It's a main event. Borralho, however you say that name, versus Marvin Vettori. Main event. Khalil Roundtree, Carlos Ulberg. I mean, in all of these other weight classes, this could be main event level stuff between number 6 and number 7. But it's grapplers. I mean, all of these ones main event level. You probably don't want Gilton and Spivak as a main event, but it's a big fight. Number 6 and number 7, very highly ranked guys in their weight class, and could easily be a fight night main event if they weren't so freaking grappling heavy. But I think it should be a decent fight nonetheless. I do expect not a lot of strikes to be thrown, but a lot of submission attempts from Gilton. Actually, I take that back. A lot of strikes to be thrown on the ground from Gilton. Not a lot of strikes to be thrown on the feet from either man. So, shouldn't be the best fight ever. I mean, again, out of all those number 6 versus number 7s, it's probably the worst one you're going to get. But it's still a big fight. It's still guys right outside of the top 5. Winner of this one likely is going to get their shot again to fight, I don't know, Pavlovich, to fight Curtis Blades again. Maybe the loser of Gane versus Volkov. Any number of this, or maybe Jones retires and the winner of this is actually going to be inside of that top 5. So there's a lot of things that could happen here. It is a big matchup, regardless of what some people are saying. But yeah, I mean, it's not that good of a fight though. We got Yuri Prochazka, Jamal Hill. This is a really good fight. An obvious main event of a fight night that this could be. Number 2 versus number 3. Again, look at other weight classes. This is Usman versus Rakhmonov. Oliveira Gaethje. That was a title fight at one point. Adesanya versus Chimaev. Diego Lopez, Yair Rodriguez. Piotr Yan, Corey Sandhagen. Again, another title fight. Amir Albazi, Kai Kara France. That was a main event. I mean, 2 versus number 3 is massive for any weight class, especially as the number 1 contender is about to fight for the belt. The winner, the next title contender, could be right here, coming out of this light heavyweight matchup. A very close fight. I believe it's 50-50 on the betting odds, and it's a fun one. They're both former champions. They both have power in their hands. Yuri gets hit, Jamal gets hit. They throw leather, and somebody's going to fall. It's an amazing matchup at 205. I can't wait for this one. We got Kevin Holland, Rainer the Ritter. This one, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. Kevin Holland, former ranked welterweight and former ranked middleweight, taking on the former 1 champion. This is just a really good fight. Any fight with Kevin Holland in it, you want to watch. Okay? That's kind of the selling point here. It's not really Rainer the Ritter, but it's Kevin Holland having some good submissions in his back pocket, good takedown defense, improving every single fight, but not absolutely amazing. So there is a factor of Rainer could go out there and get the submission, but Kevin Holland could definitely go out there and defend and outstrike Rainer in this fight. We shall see. Winner of this one, I do expect to be getting a call to that top 15 as Kevin Holland. We're looking at those at his fights in the UFC against middleweight guys. I mean, beat all these guys in the middleweight division. Anthony Hernandez, he actually knocked him out in 39 seconds, which everybody's forgetting. His last loss in middleweight was to Marvin Vettori. Also lost to current middleweight Khamzat Chimaev, and then went up to middleweight again, beat Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, and then he lost to Roman Dolidze. So if we're looking at the only guys he's been losing to at middleweight, they're all top 10 and above, when he's beating guys like Anthony Hernandez as well. So I do expect the winner of this fight to get a Michel Pereira, to get the loser of Anthony Hernandez, Brendan Allen, to get a Jack Hermanson type of matchup. I do expect the winner here to be in line for a top 15 fight. So this is a big fight. It's got a big name in Kevin Holland. For some of the hardcores, it's got a really big name in Rainer the Ritter. And again, top 15 for the winner is very possible. We got Muin Gafarov taking on Rinya Nakamura. Muin, I think it's like 1-1 in the UFC. 1-2. Not doing amazing. Lost to John Castaneda and Said Nurmagomedov. This fight isn't about that. It's about the undefeated 29-year-old, almost in his prime, Japanese wrestler who is 3-0 in the UFC. getting a round 1 knockout, and then 2 unanimous decisions. If he goes 4-0 in the UFC bantamweight division, he'll be 10-0 as a professional mixed martial artist, and that's a banger, amazing record for the bantamweight division, and it just adds more young blood to the top of those outside the rankings-ish area of the bantamweight division. So this is big. This is not about Muin Gafurov. This is strictly about could have a future top 15 contender on our hands in Rinya Nakamura. So definitely pay attention to that one. We got Bogdan Guskov and Johnny Walker. Let's look at the rankings. Number 14 versus number 10. So this is a big fight as well. This is a big fight as well. Bogdan has only lost to number 9 Volkan Oezdemir. He's about to fight number 10 Johnny Walker, who's fought the who's who of the UFC light heavyweight division. Let's just go down memory lane. He also lost to Volkan Oezdemir. He lost to Magomed Ankalaev, the number 1 contender. He beat Anthony Smith. He knocked out Paul Craig. He knocked out Ioan Cutelaba. He lost to the former champion. He lost to the former title contender. He lost to a top 5 light heavyweight. He lost to another former top 5 light heavyweight. These are the guys that he's losing to. Title contenders, former champions, number 1 contenders. All of them. All of them except for Nikita Krylov. Nikita Krylov never touched the title, but he was in the top 5. Corey Anderson, same thing. Never touched the title or anything, but he was in the top 5. So, again, you're having number 1 contenders, title contenders, and all top 5 guys that he's losing to with wins over Khalil Roundtree Jr., Paul Craig, Anthony Smith, Ioan Cutelaba, Ryan Spann, all former ranked guys and title contenders right there. So, it's a big fight right here. Bogdan and Johnny both have crazy power. They both get knocked out, or they knock out their opponent, or they submit their opponent. Whatever. Amazing fight at 205. Kara Rosa, Aylin Perez. Only the casual audience is really looking at this fight. For Aylin Perez, I'm looking at it for Kara Rosa. I'm a big fan. Sorry, Kara Hosa. I'm a big fan of Kara Hosa. I'm rooting for her to go get this win because she is fighting a very undeserved Aylin Perez. Aylin shouldn't be fighting this high up in the rankings. Carol shouldn't be fighting down in the rankings at all. If we're looking at her recent UFC fights, let's see. She lost to Irene Aldana and Norma Dumont. Okay? Irene Aldana, number 6. Norma Dumont, number 4. Those are the girls she's losing to. She beat Pani Kianzad, who was top 10 when she beat her. And she beat Yana Santos like a year and a half ago. We're looking at where Yana Santos is. She's at number 10. Host is coming off a win over a lower ranked girl, and she got the win over Yana Santos. She should easily be fighting a Holly Holm or a Mayra Bueno Silva type of girl. She should be fighting up in the rankings. They're not giving her that, and instead she's going down further than she just beat a girl. She beat a girl higher on the rankings than Aylin Perez. Now she's going down to fight Aylin Perez for whatever reason. Aylin Perez is actually doing really good in the UFC. 4-0 against competition. Ashley Evans-Smith, not in the UFC. Lucy Pudilova, I don't believe she's in the UFC anymore. Jocelyn Edwards, not a bad win by any stretch of the imagination. And then Daria Zelezniakova, who's 1-1. In the UFC, she hasn't beaten any top 15 opponents. I'd give her someone right here. Give her Yana Santos. Give her, I don't know, give her Julia Avila. Give her Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Give her Chelsea Chandler. Give her anybody to get her one top 15 win instead of just pushing her to number 9. Very undeserved shot for Aylin Perez, and Carol Hosa just accepting it. I mean, she doesn't have to fight down in the rankings. She beat the girl right below her, and she's coming off a win. She should fight up in the rankings. Instead, she's going way down to fight a girl with no ranked wins. Big respect from Carol Hosa. This is a good matchup at 135 pounds, though. Should be fun. Dumas versus Reese. This is probably the least big name or least like big future I see in any of the fighters on this card. A lot of these have ranked fighters. A lot of these have future contenders and prospects and things like that. Zach Reese and Cedricus Dumas really isn't one of those fights, I will say, okay? I don't see either of these guys being a future ranked contender. Zach Reese is like 1-1 in the UFC, 2-1 in the UFC. He beat Julian Marquez, he beat Jose Medina. They're both very, very low ranked guys in the middleweight division. And he lost to Cody Brundage, another, again, very, very low ranked guy in the UFC middleweight division. If we're looking at Dumas, let's take a look. He's 3-2. Again, not an amazing record. He lost to Josh Fremd in his debut, who's not in the UFC. He got knocked out by a welterweight in Nursultan Ruziboyev. There was some controversy there. And his only wins are decisions. Again, Abu Azaitar, I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. If he is, that's crazy. What's his record? Freaking 1-2 in the UFC. He beat Cody Brundage, who is 4-5 in the UFC. And then he beat Dennis Tulinen, who is not in the UFC, and he's 1-5. So all of his wins against losing record guys, and he lost to a guy that's not even in the UFC anymore. So again, this is probably the least I'm looking forward to any of these fights. Zach should be able to defend the takedowns, keep it in the striking, which that's our only hope here is that Zach lost a fluke to Cody Brundage and then he goes out there and knocks out Dumas. That'd be the only silver lining for this matchup to see a future contender or prospect. It would be Zach Reese, if anyone here, in this middleweight matchup. 29 and 30 years old, so I don't know. It's a weird one. Probably the least I'm looking forward to any of these fights. Peyton Talbot, Raoni Barcelos. Again, you already know what they're trying to do here. 37-year-old, really good guy. Really good veteran right here. Taking on 26-year-old banger prospect Peyton Talbot. Raoni Barcelos, again, you might not know him. You might be like, oh, who is this guy? They're just giving him some random 37-year-old. 7-4 might not look like an amazing record. I can guarantee you it is. If we're looking at his fights, let's take a look. He fought in the UFC. When did he join the UFC? 2018. He beat Kurt Hollabaugh, a Ultimate Fighter winner at lightweight. He knocked him out in round 3, and he's a bantamweight, so he knocked him out. He beat Chris Gutierrez by finish. If you don't know who Chris Gutierrez is, he's a former top 15 UFC bantamweight. 9-3-1 in the UFC. That's a really good win. He beat Carlos Suachin by knockout. Not a crazy good win. Nothing really on that one. Carlos Suachin went 0-2. That's not a great win. The other two were, though. He beat Said Nurmagomedov, again, another former top 15 bantamweight, currently ranked 19th in the UFC, who is 7-2 in the UFC with 5 finishes. 5 out of 7 wins in the UFC by finish, and he went out there, beat Said Nurmagomedov. Khalid Taha, 1-4. Again, he's another one of those Carlos Suachin ones where they're not amazing wins. It's just a win there. It's just a win there for Raoni Barcelos, but a solid one nonetheless. Won that one fairly easily. But again, Said, Chris Gutierrez, Kurt Hollabaugh, amazing wins. Now let's talk about the losses. Timur Valiev, close back and forth fight. 2-1 guy in the UFC bantamweight division. It's not a bad one at all. His only loss was to Jack Shore, a former top 15 guy. That's his first loss. Again, not a horrible loss. It was a very close fight. Victor Henry doesn't look like an amazing record, 3-2, but his only losses were to a former top 15 guy and a guy right outside of the rankings. He beat Tony Gravely, Raoni Barcelos, and Ronnie Yaya. This is a legit dude with a 24-7 record. Amazing veteran on the regional scene. Joined the UFC, did very good. He beat Trevin Jones. Not an amazing win, but Trevin Jones does have a good win over Mario Bautista. His only win in the UFC, but he beat Mario Bautista. So that's a win Raoni Barcelos was able to get. And then the other two losses. Umar Nurmagomedov, who's about to fight for the belt right now, and Kyler Phillips. Let's check on those bantamweight rankings. The number 12 ranked UFC bantamweight in the world. So he lost to number 12 bantamweight in the world. He lost to the number 1 contender, Timur Valiev, in a very close fight. A very good record in the UFC. 2-1, only lost to a ranked guy. Victor Henry, who's 3-2. Again, another winning record. He's only losing to winning record guys right here. And then number 1 and number 12 in the world, while beating a former top 15 guy, another top 15 guy, Ultimate Fighter winner at lightweight, and then finishing some other guys like Christian Quinones recently. This is a legit dude. 7-4 with 2 of the losses being to the number 1 and number 12 contenders is really legit. This is a good test for Peyton Talbot, as the most recent guys to beat Raoni Barcelos are in the top 15 or fighting for the belts. Now, Peyton's only 3-0. a finish in round 1, in round 2, and in round number 3. Not against amazing competition. Out of the UFC. And then Cameron Simon, who's 3-2, so not a horrible win. 3-2 with his 3-0 start. Then he lost to Rodriguez and Peyton Talbot. I'm sure he'll pick that up and get to 5-2, something like that. He'll come back and he'll get a little bit of a win streak going. He's 3-0 in the UFC. Raoni Barcelos is in a similar situation a few years ago. The man started in the UFC on a 5-fight win streak. Did amazing. This is a great test for Peyton Talbot. A guy that started in the UFC 5-0. That's who Peyton Talbot's fighting at. This is a huge test for him. Massive, massive test. It's a big fight you should definitely watch, as it's a tricky puzzle for a lot of guys to solve in that bantamweight division. Raoni can keep a lot of fights with really, really good guys very, very close. Bernardo Sopai versus Ricky Tercios in the bantamweight division. A lot of bantamweight fights on this card. Former Ultimate Fighter winner, that's the main thing I'll have to say about Ricky Tercios. He's got an even record in the UFC, 2 wins, 2 losses. Again, his wins, very, very good. Brady Heastan, a guy I'm very, very high on, as he is 3-1 in the UFC, lost that Ricky Tercios split decision, and he's on 2 finishes in a row over very, very legit guys. Brady, I'm very, very high on as a prospect. He was able to beat him. He lost to Ayman Zahabi. If any of you guys know who this guy is, he's ranked in the top 15 at number 13 of the bantamweight division. That was his first loss. Everybody thought it was a horrible loss at the time. Little did they know Zahabi was going to be ranked eventually. Kevin Natividad, not an amazing win by Ricky. He's not in the UFC anymore. Then he lost to Raul Rosas Jr., who currently on Tapology is ranked top 50 in the world. Not an amazing loss. He got finished in that one. But again, 2 losses to a top 15 guy in Raul Rosas Jr., while beating a very good guy in Brady Heastan right there. Not bad, not a horrible career. 2-2 to really good guys. Then we got Bernardo Sopai, 0-1. You might be like, 0-1, he's not good. Why are we so hyped about this fight? Well, the 2-2, Ricky Tercios, former Ultimate Fighter, has some really good wins. That Brady Heastan was a very, very good win, fight of the night type fight, and his losses are really, really legit. Well, same thing can be said for this man right here. He gets banger wins, and his only losses are to really, really good guys. Vinicius Salvador beat Bernardo Sopai. Bernardo took that fight on short notice for his UFC debut. Came in there, had some moments, I think won a round against Vinicius Oliveira, who is ranked 17th, right outside of that top 15. And he went on to beat Ricky Simon dominantly. Ricky Simon lost to Yadong Song, Mario Bautista, then Vinicius Oliveira dominantly. So, again, very, very legit win there. Or a very, very legit loss for Bernardo Sopai to make it pretty close at moments with Vinicius Oliveira, who's basically a top 15 guy in that bantamweight division. Neither of these two guys' records are amazing, but they put on, when they are sharp, when they're on and they're focused, both of these men put on very, very, very good fights. Bernardo Sopai goes to war. He's only 24 years old, very, very young. Ricky has beaten a really good guy in Brady. He's lost to solid names in Zahabi and Raul. Sopai, again, only lost to Vinicius Oliveira. Very, very legit dude. So I expect this one to be a very, very good fight. Either prove that Ricky still has it, or to kind of bolster up a great, great prospect. Again, his loss to Oliveira was on short notice. He didn't have time to prepare for that fight, the weight cut or anything. And I know he got highlighted and all that, but he took 9 months off. He's training. He's getting better. He was 23 when he fought him. He's 24 now. Sopai he's got a bright, bright future ahead of him. 24 years old. That's what to watch there. If Sopai can get past this tough task in his second UFC fight, we may have another future contender on our hands in the bantamweight division. That probably going to be in the UFC for a while, as he's like the only representative from Sweden in the UFC. Next, guys, we do have Diego Ferreira, who is 10-5 in the UFC, and then Grant Dawson, who is 10-1 in the UFC. These are both legit dudes in the lightweight division. Grant is actually ranked. The first fight of the night, ladies and gentlemen, Grant Dawson, who's ranked at number 15. Are we kidding? Holy shnikes, bro. He's ranked at top 15, and he's in the first fight of the night. So, Joined the UFC in the featherweight division back in 2019. Beat Julian Erosa. Not a bad win. Not a bad win at all. Julian Erosa, kind of a journeyman type of guy. Barely a winning record in the UFC, but has proven himself as a legit name, beating guys like Sean Woodson. Sean Woodson's only loss in the UFC was to this man. He submitted Charles Jourdain. He beat Hakeem Dawodu. And he beat Christian Rodriguez in his last fight. If you don't know who Christian Rodriguez is, this is the man who beat Isaac Dolgarian, Cameron Simon, Raul Rosas Jr. He was going out there and winning that fight. That's a legit win in his first fight in the UFC. He beat Michael Trezano, who's undefeated at the time. Got another finish after that. Beat Nad Narimani. Okay. Beat Leonardo Santos. Okay. Draw right there. Beat Jared Gordon, who everybody thought beat Paddy Pimblett. He submitted Jared Gordon in round number 3. Everybody thought this man beat Paddy Pimblett. He submitted him. Mark Madsen, another undefeated guy. He finished him in round number 3. Damir Ismagulov, this was his shot into the top 10 of the lightweight division. He dominated that fight 30-27. He dominated Damir more than Arman Tsarukyan dominated him. He dominated Joe Selecki for a 30-27, and he finished Tafa Garcia in his last fight with his only UFC loss to Bobby Green in a very fluke knockout. This man is top 15 material, and I would venture to say would beat Jalen Turner. Could go out there and beat a guy like Benoit Saint-Denis. I don't think he'd beat a Faziev. He'd have a close one with Moicano. He'd have a close one with like a Gamrot type of thing. He'd have close ones with a lot of the top dogs in this lightweight division. And the same could be said for Diego Ferreira. This man joined the UFC back in 2014. So almost more than 10 years ago at this point. 2 finishes in a row. If you're thinking, oh, this old dude can't finish anybody. No. 2 finishes in a row to start his UFC career. Then he lost to Beneil Dariush. Yep, Beneil Dariush. And then Dustin Poirier. That's who they're giving him in his second and third fight. Or sorry, his third and fourth fight in the UFC. He says, okay, give me a little bit of a step down. He fights the PFL champion, the double champion in the PFL. Beats him unanimously. Easy win. Beats Jared Gordon. Again, a guy a lot of people think beats Paddy Pimblett. He knocks him out in a round. Kyle Nelson, round 2 knockout win. Another knockout win in a row. That's 4 out of 5 wins to start his career. By finish in round number 1 and round number 2. Then he beats Rustam Khabilov, 23-3 prospect. He beats Mayurbek Taisumov, easily 27-5 prospect on a Khabib Poirier card. He beats a former champion in Anthony Pettis by round 2 submission. He's on a 5-fight win streak at this point. Then he fights Beneil Dariush for a second time. He's in the rankings at this point. He's in the top 15. And he gets a split decision loss to Beneil Dariush, who's ranked. Split decision. Let's look at Beneil Dariush's career. Beneil won the split decision over Diego Ferreira and beat Mateusz Gamrot unanimously about a little bit over a year later. Diego did better against Beneil than Gamrot did. That just shows you something there. Lost to Gregory Gillespie, who was also ranked at the time. Lost to Mateusz Gamrot, again, who was also ranked at the time. Then he beat Michael Johnson by knockout and Mateusz Rebecki by knockout. This man has finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his 10 wins in the UFC. He's a finisher, ladies and gentlemen. And he's kind of a killer be killed as well. Out of his 5 losses, 4 of them, I don't know what I'm saying here. 3 of them were by finish and were by knockout. So win or lose, most of this man's fights are finishes. I think 66% of his fights are finishes. So got a guy like Grant Dawson, who's also always going out there trying to get a submission, trying to control and cut you up with ground and pound. Very possible he could get the submission if Diego is going for the finish as well, which he is a finisher, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great fight. You got an older guy, 40 years old, versus the prime 30-year-old 10-1-1 guy in the UFC. Amazing fight. I know I've been rambling on about this entire card. I just wanted you to kind of get a grasp on all of these fights. We have a very young prime prospect versus a legit veteran who's only lost to beasts and has beaten a lot of great guys by finish in that lightweight division. So predictions, we're going to go fast on here. I'm going to go Grant Dawson, 29-28, very, very close decision. I'm going to go Bernardo Sopage, 29-28, unanimous decision. I got Peyton Talbot by knockout in round number 2, round number 3, or a 30-27 decision. But I don't think any of those rounds are going to be easy rounds for Peyton. I think they're all going to be very, very close. I might say 30-27. You might be like, oh, he's going to dominate Raoni. No. All of those rounds I think are going to be contested, be close. Raoni's going to keep the whole fight very close, but I think Peyton's going to win every round. Zachary Reese, I got him by knockout. I think he's going to catch Dumas with something. Down the middle in round 1, in round number 2. Carol Hoza, I got her winning by a decision. I got Bogdan Guskov by knockout in round number 2. I'm going to go Rinya Nakamura by unanimous decision. I'm going to go Kevin Holland to win this fight by unanimous decision, 29-28. I think Rainer will get around. Keep it really, really close. I will not be surprised if Rainer could win this one. I got Jamal Hill by knockout, and I got Jailton Almeida by submission. Then we got Marab Devolishvili losing a unanimous decision. I got Umar winning that one, and I got Islam Makhachev by a unanimous decision. So, let's see. The only odds that are out are on Islam, Umar, and Jamal, so I don't know if I have any other dogs on this card as of right now. I know I have favorite Islam. I know I have favorite Umar. And the Yuri Jamal fight's a 50-50 pick'em. We could look just to see what the odds are on the Jamal fight in case maybe I have an underdog. Damn it, Jamal's a slight favorite. Never mind, I don't have an underdog. So yeah, let's check Tapology. Do I have any Tapology underdogs? I got Kevin Holland. He is a Tapology underdog. Jamal Hill, he's a Tapology underdog. Makhachev, Dvalishvili, I got Almeida. I got Nakamura. I got Guskov. Aylin Perez is the favorite. I got Rosa as an underdog. Reese, I have him, Talbot, Sopage, and Dawson. So I have a few underdogs on Tapology, and their odds aren't out yet. But I think Rosa will probably be a dog in the odds. Holland could definitely be a dog on the odds as well. What else? That's about it. I don't think anything else would be an underdog on what I said, because there's a lot of heavy favorites like Almeida, Makhachev, Nakamura, Talbot's not going to be a freaking dog. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys for watching this full card prediction video. A lot of it just breaking down how good the card is, but thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.